Hey guys, Eddie the Magic Monk here. Welcome to the OneNote 2022 training video. If you watch through this whole video, you will know as much about OneNote as I do because I'm going to share every little thing I know with you. So why should you learn OneNote from me? Okay, there are two main reasons. Number one, I started using OneNote in 2010. So I have used OneNote for 12 years. If you think about how good you can get at something in 12 years, that's basically what I am with OneNote because I use it every single day. I work as a high school teacher. So every single day, this is the program that I use to upload my resources, to share information with students, to teach on the whiteboard, to share information with other teachers. Everything I do is through this program, OneNote. And I started doing that in 2010 when there was we didn't put anything on the cloud. Everything was just on my own computer. There was no syncing. There was no class OneNote. Nothing back then is when I started. Nobody knew about OneNote. So all this time I've built up my knowledge and now we're in 2022 and I'm going to share everything with you using the latest version. Okay, so the two main reasons. Number one, I started very long time ago, so I know quite a bit. And the second reason is I'm a high school teacher, obviously, as I said before. And when you learn something, it is quite different if you learn it from a teacher compared to just anybody. Okay, because of my teaching experience, I've actually been teaching for 16 years. So the way that I'm going to teach it to you, everything that I say today, you will 100% understand. Okay, you're not going to get that anywhere else. Whatever video you're watching, chances are there's going to be some bits where you go, what the hell is he or she talking about? Right? Whereas in my video, everything I say, 100% you're going to understand. And you will get through this video if you spend the time watching it. That's all you need to do. Just watch it. So step one of today's video is deciding where you want to create your notebook. Nowadays, basically everyone has OneDrive. So you basically have two possibilities. Number one is if you have your personal OneDrive, which everyone can get if you have a Hotmail account. I think you're eligible for maybe 10 or 20 gigabytes of free space on your OneDrive if you want to use your personal one, or if you have a work OneDrive. Most companies, well, if you're watching this video for work, chances are your company has signed some sort of contract with Microsoft where you will get, as an employee, a free OneDrive with probably a terabyte of space or something huge for your work. Okay, so you're going to basically now decide, are you going to create the OneNote on your personal OneDrive, so nothing to do with work, or you're going to create the OneNote on your work OneDrive, or you can create a OneNote on your computer, which I do not advise anymore because nowadays hard drives go corrupt all the time. So if you create it on your computer, chances are one day your hard drive will become corrupt and then you can't get to it anymore. Whereas if you create your OneNote on your OneDrive, then it's always going to be there. It's very unlikely you will lose it if you know how to use it properly. So let's now create your OneNote on your OneDrive. And let's start with the personal option. So if you go to a website, okay, now I know I'm already in OneNote.com, and this is the interface for using OneNote online, but we're not going to do anything here because you can't create OneNotes in here. You have to go to your wherever you want to create it, and in this case, I'm going to my personal OneDrive, which the address is onedrive.live.com. Okay, you don't need any of this after that, onedrive.live.com, and you will have to sign in with your personal Hotmail username and password. Hotmail or personal Outlook email, whatever you call it. Sign in and there's your OneDrive. And then you want to go to a folder, okay, a folder where you want to create the OneNote. So I'm going to go into Documents. And if this is where you want to create your OneNote, you're just going to click on New OneNote Notebook. Okay, and you're going to give your OneNote a name, and I'm going to call it OneNote Tutorial 2022, and I'm going to click Create. And there you go. You created the OneNote. This is the OneNote that I've just created. There's a draw with touch option on the Draw tab to draw with your finger or mouse. If turned off, moving your finger across the touchscreen will scroll content. Okay, so there's a draw and touch option in the Draw tab. Okay, this is the web version of OneNote. And we're going to explain the difference between the web version and the Office version and the Windows app. There are 3 versions of OneNote. We're going to explain the differences, but this is the web version. And the benefit of the web version is that everything is updated instantaneously. So if you're sharing this OneNote with a bunch of other people, if you do something, they will see the changes straight away. And if they do something, you'll see the changes straight away. That is the best part about this version, is there is no syncing process. You don't have to wait until your computer syncs. If you do something here, they should be getting it straight away. That's the cool thing about it. Okay, so I've just created a OneNote, a new OneNote, and you can see it's already opened it for me. But I just want to go back to my OneDrive and show you, if I go back to my OneDrive, okay, I'm inside my files, my documents, and you can see it's created a new file called OneNote Tutorial 2022. Now, if you're not used to this way of viewing your files, you can also go to View Options here, List, and you can see that all my files in this folder on my OneDrive, there's a OneNote Tutorial 2022. Now, just in case you are one of my colleagues who is also a teacher in Queensland watching this, the address that you go to for your work OneDrive, okay, it'll be different for anyone else around the world if you, whatever job you're in, but just in case you're my colleague, Queensland teacher, you go to QEDU my.sharepoint.com. That's the address you go to your work OneDrive. And you can see here, this is all my work files. And again, if you go to a folder that you choose to put in your OneNote, so it doesn't matter what folder it is, let's just go to this folder here. And then maybe I go to New OneNote Notebook, and you can do the exact same thing. All right, let's now go back to our OneNote. So I want you guys to now create your OneNote and then come back when you are at the exact same screen. Welcome back, guys. So what we want to do now is explain a little bit about what you can put in a OneNote. And then we're going to try open it up in the different versions of OneNote. Right now, we're in the web version. So here we have an untitled section to start off. So what does that mean? Well, if you think of as a teacher, okay, the school year is broken up into term 1, term 2, term 3, term 4. Maybe each term you want to create a section so that when your students are studying in term 1, they go into term 1 to see all the information. And then when they're in term 2, they go into term 2 and so on. So to do that, what you do is you right click on the section and see all these things you can do to a section. I'm going to rename it and I'm going to call it term 1. Okay, so this OneNote tutorial, it could represent the work for maths, for example. So term 1, and then you got add another section, term 2, add another section, term 3, add another section, term 4. So I want you to try do that now. And then within each term, okay, so you got term 1, term 2, term 3, term 4. Within each term, you can then have the information that students are learning in that term. Okay, so term 1, you might have something like add a page and call it algebra, lesson 1. And then you go add another page, algebra, lesson 2. Okay, maybe you only have 3 lessons of algebra. Okay, then you move on to trigonometry, lesson 1. Add another lesson, trigonometry, lesson 2, things like that. So this is just a good way to break up the information. Okay, and then within each page, you can then put in the information for that page. Okay, so for example, in algebra lesson 1, I'm going to put, hello everyone. Today, let's work on adding in algebra. Okay, combining like terms. Okay, then I'm going to go x plus x equals 2x. Something like that. So just some information. Just some information on every single page. Okay, now you can see here there is a sync status button. So originally, you know how I told you guys it syncs straight away? Well, there is still a slight delay. So if you type something here, it might refresh here, but this is the quickest way it syncs. So x plus x equals 2x, 2x plus 3x equals 5x. Okay, so it syncs straight away every time you do something, so that when you get a tick, it means that everyone else who you share this OneNote with will see the updated information. We're going to talk about sharing very soon after we go through some basics. Okay, but so once you create some stuff, I want to show you now the 3 versions of OneNote. Right now, we're in the web version. So what I want to do is I want to open this up in the desktop version of OneNote, and I'll show you what the difference is. So if you click on open in desktop app, it says always allow to open links. Okay, so then you just click on open OneNote. It'll start opening up the OneNote that you created in the desktop app. Okay, in the desktop app, and you can see here that it's opened up the section in some strange place, but don't worry about that right now. Okay, you can see here that it's got OneNote tutorial 2022 right at the bottom. So whatever you open up, it's going to go straight down to the bottom. Okay, I'm just going to minimize all this other stuff. Okay, so this OneNote, this version you're in, comes with Microsoft Office. This version you're in comes with Microsoft Office. So if you don't have Microsoft Office, you will not have this version of OneNote. You might have opened it up in another version. We're going to talk about all of that in a second. So on the left-hand side, you can see that I have all these notebooks. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go right down to the bottom of the list where it's got OneNote tutorial 2022, and I'm going to drag this all the way up to the top. Just drag it to the top of the list. Okay, you might need to hold down your mouse, left button, drag it to the top, and use the scroll wheel to scroll up and down on your mouse. Scroll wheel, scroll up and down, and it goes to the top. Okay, so now you got OneNote at the top, and if you expand it by double clicking on it, you can see it's got term 1, term 2, term 3, term 4, and then within term 1, you've got algebra lesson 1, algebra lesson 2, just exactly the same as how we have set it up, but with a slightly different layout. Okay, so here is when I'm going to now try type something under term 1 lesson 2 and see if it shows up in the desktop version. Sorry, see if it shows up in the web version. So under algebra lesson 2 in my app, I'm now going to type something. I'm going to type, today we will work on solving for x. X plus 2 equals 5. X equals 3. Something like that. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is with the desktop version, there's one more step. Okay, in the online version, you don't have to worry about it, but on the desktop version, you actually need to right click on your notebook and choose sync this notebook now. Okay, you can see there's a shortcut, Shift F9 on your keyboard if you want to press that, but I'm just going to click on sync notebook now. And you can see that there's a green symbol here that's moving. That simplifies that it's syncing. Okay, and then when you hover your mouse over it, it says sync status up to date. That means it has synced with the cloud. So when you go back to your web version, we tried opening up this file. So I'm just going to click on the cross, or you can click continue here. Means the same thing. And then when you go to algebra lesson 2, okay, it should already be there. What I typed on my desktop version should show up here as well. It's thinking about it. If it doesn't show up, you can always just reload the page. Reload the page, it should show up. Okay, there it is, algebra lesson 2. So the point here that I'm trying to make is it doesn't matter how you access the OneNote. You can access it through your desktop app, or you can access it through your website version. It's all the same. Okay. So I'm just going to show you the other third OneNote app, because there's three OneNote versions. You can get to your OneNote from the website, or you can get to the OneNote through the Office app. The third one is the Windows 10 app. So again, if I type OneNote, okay, there's a OneNote app and a OneNote for Windows 10. And you can see that because I haven't used it, something probably went wrong with the icon, okay, because I barely ever use it. So I'm going to try open it up now, see if it works. Okay, so it does work. And it just looks a little bit different, okay, but it's the Windows 10 version. So you can see it's a bit confusing because you got OneNote for Windows 10, OneNote for Office, and the website, but they all open the same OneNote. Okay, so in this version of OneNote, you can see that it doesn't know where my OneNote is. All right, you got some OneNotes here. You can click on this drop down. You got all your OneNotes here, but it doesn't have the version, the OneNote that I just created. So to find that OneNote, you can click on more notebooks and it'll show up right here, OneNote Tutorial 2022. Okay, so you can click on that, click open, and then it opens. Then it opens here. Okay, so before we continue, what I want to do is I want to now set my OneNote for Windows 10 as the default version, so that in my web version, if I click on open in desktop app, I want it to open up in my OneNote for Windows 10. Now you can set either of these as your default. It doesn't matter. Okay, whichever version you like as your favorite, you can set it as your default, but I'm just going to show you how to set one as your default. So when you go to type here to search, you're going to put default apps, and then you just go into default apps, and then here where it's got choose default apps by app, okay, go into here. And then you're going to scroll down to OneNote. You can also, you can't search for it, but you can just scroll down until you see OneNote. There are two versions of OneNote, just OneNote and OneNote for Windows 10. Either of these are good, so it depends on which one as your favorite interface. But let's say I want OneNote for Windows 10. Then you just go to Manage, and then where it says the name of the file, you're going to choose the default app or to OneNote for Windows 10. Okay, just click on it and change to OneNote for Windows 10. Then you're going to get out of it. So then when you are on the website version, if you click on open in desktop app, it'll change to open OneNote for Windows 10. So then if I click on that, it'll open in the Windows 10 version rather than the Office version. So this is OneNote for Windows 10. And if I do something here, so algebra lesson 3, I'll go, in this lesson, we will work on practical questions for algebra. Okay. Johnny has 3 apples. Ben has 2 oranges. In total, how many apples and oranges are there? Just something like that. Okay. So then if I go back to my website version, I'm going to click continue here again. I'm going to click on algebra lesson 3 and just see if it shows up. Now, if it doesn't, you might have to right click and sync this notebook. And it's thinking right now. Usually it's a lot quicker than this. I'm not sure what's happening today. But again, you might need to refresh to see the changes. Okay, there it is. So we got 3 versions of OneNote. We got the website and we have the Office version. Okay, if you go to algebra lesson 3, it's here already. And we have the OneNote for Windows 10 version. They all work. Okay, so let's talk about some slight differences in the versions. And what I like about the Office version is that it's very quick. If I go to algebra lesson 1, 2, 3, look at how fast it's switching between the pages. Okay, if I go to the web version and I go to algebra lesson 1, it is not as fast. Okay, now the cool thing about the the Office version of OneNote is that if I don't have internet anymore, okay, I'm just going to do a quick test here. I'm going to disable my Wi-Fi. I'm going to disconnect my Wi-Fi, totally disable it. Okay, and now, so I have no internet. I'm going to go to the website and I'm going to go to algebra lesson 1. It's still working right now because it's in the cache, but if I refresh it, it's gone. Okay, if I refresh it, it's gone. Whereas my local version, algebra 1, 2, 3, you can still change stuff without the internet. You can load it up. You can add stuff to it. All right, I'm adding stuff to it even without the internet. Okay, so that is what I recommend, is using this version, the Office version of OneNote, because you can keep working on it without the internet. It doesn't use the internet as much as the other ones. Now, does it work with this version, Windows 10? Yes, it works as well. So you can also do that. But here it's got working offline. So if I make some changes, let's say I go to lesson 2, I go x y plus 3 equals 7, y equals 4. Okay, so now it's saved offline. So this app has actually improved a little bit. So it really depends on what sort of layout you like better. Okay, you can see here it's got term 1, 2, 3, 4. It's got the sections here again, whereas in this app there is no sections along the top. So on the left hand side, if I can't really this little bit takes up space. Okay, this vertical panel takes up space, and there's really not an easy way to get rid of that. You can see here that it's sort of stuck here. Unless I click that, hide navigation, then it gets rid of all of that. But yeah, so that's what you're dealing with on this version. Whereas on this version here, if I hide all that, if I hide that by unpinning it, Okay, you still got the sections here. So it's just for me slightly different layout. Okay, so now I'm gonna go back on the internet. I'm gonna go back on the internet and I'm just gonna see what happens. Okay, so I've back on the internet. I'm gonna sync. It's automatically has it started syncing. Sync this notebook. I'm gonna go back to here. I'm gonna sync it. Sync this notebook. It's syncing. Right, syncing. Now, I'm not sure whether you are going to have the dark version because of the Windows theme that I have chosen. It's gone into the dark version. But if you got the light version, it works the same way. Okay, so now let's go to Algebra Lesson 3. Yeah, see, that's the changes that I put in before. 3x plus 4x equals 7. And then y plus 3 equals 7, y equals 4. Let's see if we see that in the online version. Yes, it's starting to show up now. In every single version, it's starting to show up. Okay, so the point I'm trying to make is there's 3 ways of getting to the same thing. Okay, whichever way you like better, it all works. All right, so now let's keep going. Now I want to talk about how you would share this OneNote with other people. Okay, now, right now we are not dealing with class OneNotes. If you are a teacher and you want each student to have a notebook that is linked to this OneNote, that is something different that we're going to talk about later. Okay, right now we're just talking about a OneNote you're creating for yourself and you want to share it with 2 or 3 other people. So what I want, so the way that I'm going to share this, which is totally different to a class OneNote, is you can simply go through the web version and click share. Okay, and underneath this send link title, you can choose whether you want people to be able to edit. Okay, so if you don't want people to be able to edit, you can remove the allow editing and click apply. And now it says anyone with the link can view, and I'm just going to click on copy link. Okay, so now there is a link to this OneNote. It says anyone with the link can view. So now if I highlight this and I click on copy and I put this on my YouTube channel, I put this on my website, I send it in an email, anyone that clicks on that link can open it up. Okay, now if you are doing this through work, it could have something like anyone, in the organization, people can open it with the link. So what that means is people outside of your organization who don't have an email where the back of it is the name of your company, they won't be able to open it up. Okay, so because this is a personal OneNote, it doesn't care about organizations. Anyone with the link, you can copy this and share it with people. They can only view it. They can't edit it if that's the option you're picking. Or you can choose on allow editing and apply and give them that link. So if you don't want class OneNotes where your students are typing into your OneNote, if you don't want that, you just want a OneNote where people go to for information, then you can share it this way. You can share it this way if you don't want students to edit your OneNote. So you got anyone with the link, get rid of allow editing, apply, and then I'm going to copy and paste this link somewhere. Let's go to Notepad. Okay, I'll just paste this here. I'm going to later put it on the YouTube channel. Okay, so you guys can click on it, open it if you want. Okay, but obviously it's just to practice OneNote. It's not going to be much use to you. Now, once you have shared this link with your friends or students or colleagues or whatever, it's very difficult to change the name of the OneNote. Okay, you can see here, I've got OneNote Tutorial 2022. The name is the same on all three versions. If you want to change the name, okay, let's say I change the name here in my Office app version to 2023. Okay, I just right click, properties, and I change the name here, OneNote Tutorial 2022 to 2023. Okay, what's going to happen is that even though this is changed, the name has changed, it's only changed for this person here. And this is going to become a problem, is it's only changed for one person, but for other people, it will not change the name. Okay, it will not change the name. It says OneNote Tutorial 2022 here. The online version, okay, which ultimately is the source version, still says 2022. Okay, so it's not going to change the name for other people. If you change the name by right-clicking properties, change the name, it will only change it for yourself, not for other people. If you want it to change for other people, okay, this is very complicated. There is no way to change your name here. You can try to go to file. There's no way to change it. If you click on the heading inside the web version, click on the heading, you'll see a location. Okay, this is going to bring you back to the OneDrive folder. Inside the OneDrive folder, you can see your OneNote file. If you rename it here, then it will really change the name. Okay, but there are some problems. If you click rename here and you change it to OneNote 2023, okay, what's going to happen is that even though you have changed the name here, and if you click on it and it's going to open up in the new name, people may lose connection to your OneNote because you have changed the name of it. If you're lucky, it might change for them. Otherwise, they will totally lose connection to it. So let's have a look whether they have lost connection. If I sync it now, okay, if you right click, go to Notebook Sync Status, you can actually see whether it's still syncing. Okay, if you click sync now, if it's still syncing, it's fine. Okay, it's still syncing. Miraculously, it's still syncing. Okay, what about my Windows 10 version? Is it still syncing? Right click sync. Sync this notebook. Okay, it actually synced. OneNote Tutorial 2023. So that's pretty lucky that it's synced. If it does not sync, however, what you need to get them to do is you need to get them to close down their notebooks. So right click on their notebook, close this notebook, okay, and you need to send them the link again. Now, when you send them the link again, you don't have to go to share. You can just right click on a page and just go to copy link to this page. Okay, that is the quickest way to get the link because they already have permission to your OneNote. If you go right click, copy link to this page, and then get people to paste it in their browser. Okay, and then just get them to click on open in desktop app again, and it will open it in their app. So the quickest way to open it again is actually, for me, is actually just to go to the list of OneNotes, more notebooks, and just open it here. Okay, that's probably the quickest way. But you can also click on open in desktop app and it'll open it in their app. All right, so now that we've renamed it, let's keep going. So there it is. That's how you work between the three apps. All right, so now we have sections, we got pages. We got sections, we got pages, and we have, so we got basically the two things, sections and pages. So I just want to talk about another way of organizing data is if you have multiple sections. If you have multiple sections and you want to group them together, so right now it says 2023. Let's say I want all of this to go into a group called 2022 and then have another one for 2023. So what I can do is go back to my OneNote, right click on one of these sections and choose new section group. And the section group, I'm going to call it, rename, call it 2022. And I will drag these sections into that group. So 2022 has now got 4 sections. So that's a section group. Okay, and I'm now going to create another section group. Actually, I'm just going to try copy this section group. Can I copy a whole section group? No, you can't. You can't copy a section group. But I'm just going to go new section group, 2023. What happened? Oh, it's created the section group underneath a section group. That's confusing. So 2023, I have 2 section groups here. You can have a section group within a section group, which is pretty crazy. So I have 2023, and then I'm just going to copy this term 1. I'm going to copy it. Move or copy, and I'm going to paste it inside 2023. Copy. So now both these sections have a term 1. Okay, so copy the term 2 section, right click, move or copy, go to 2023, copy. So now I have term 1, term 2, term 3, term 4. Now you can also copy sections between notebooks. So if I have 2 notebooks, I'm going to put this inside a Chinese lesson notebook. So I'm going to go right click, move or copy, and I'm going to put it inside Chinese lessons, copy, and now my Chinese lessons notebook has the term 1 section. Okay, so you can copy and paste sections and copy and paste pages. Okay, so if I have algebra lesson 1, I go right click, copy, and I can copy, right click, paste. So the copying of pages is slightly different because rather than right click, there's no move or copy. You can just copy and then go to another section, right click, paste. So there's ways, different ways of copying and pasting sections compared to pages. So with pages, what you can do is you can also highlight multiple pages by just clicking on the first page, hold down Shift on your keyboard, and then press click on the last page. So you got all 5 pages. You can right click, copy, and then you can go to another section, right click, paste, and you can copy multiple pages at once. You can also use the keyboard, so you can highlight multiple pages, Control C for copy on your keyboard, go to another section, Control V for paste. Right, and you can delete pages by just clicking on a page and press delete. Actually, that didn't delete it. Clicking on a page, delete. Okay, so actually that was a double click. Double click on a page, delete. Okay, now if you accidentally deleted something and you want to get it back, Control Z. Control Z to undo the delete. Okay, make sure you learn that one. We're going to be using Control Z quite a bit. Okay, so now I have 2 section groups, 2022, 2023. Within each section group, you got sections. Within each section, you got pages. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and see what this looks like in my other versions. Let's go to the web version. Continue here. and what happens? Under OneNote 2023, oops, why is it doing this? It's confused. OneNote 2023. Oops, so now it's done it. Inside here, it's got section 2022, section 2023. So it's done the section groups in here as well. Okay, it's got all the information here. Can I add a section group here? It's not. Now that's another thing is with the Office version of OneNote, it's easier to create section groups. In the online version, I don't think there's an easy way. It doesn't let you do it very easily. Whereas in the desktop version, Office version, it'll let you do it. What about in here? New section group. It also lets you do it on the OneNote for Windows 10 version. Okay, section groups. So yeah, 3 different versions. They all do different things. Get used to it. Get used to one version, but there's no harm in doing multiple versions. Now, as I did with moving the OneNote to the top, you can also do that with pages. So if you decide, hang on, I'm going to teach trigonometry before algebra, hold down the first one, hold down the second one, highlight multiple, just drag them to the top. So now you're teaching trigonometry before algebra. Now, another thing you can do with pages is if you don't want to have algebra lesson 1, 2, 3, trigonometry 1, 2, 3 all scattered onto a list, what you can do is you can have an overall page. So let me just say, call this algebra. And then I can actually put algebra lesson 1, 2, and 3 within that section. So just drag it underneath it and then drag it to the right a little bit. Okay, so now these 3 lessons are now sitting underneath algebra. Okay, so underneath algebra, this drop down arrow comes up and now I have 3 pages underneath that. So let's say I add a page called trigonometry and then I can put trigonometry lesson 1 and 2 underneath that and then drag it to the right a little bit. And now you can see it's sitting under trigonometry. There are 2, how should I say this? Master pages, and then within each master page, there are pages underneath that. So let's see what this looks like in the online version. If I just sync that, go to the online version, and we'll see what it looks like here. Okay, you can see here, same thing. All right, close-up view. Okay, so you can see here within algebra, you got algebra lesson 1, 2, and 3. Within trigonometry, you got trigonometry lesson 1 and 2. So that's what it looks like on the online version. That's what it looks like inside the app version. Okay, so now what we want to do is talk about a couple more ways you can get content onto the page. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about is just by taking a screenshot. Okay, so I'm going to advertise my website a little bit. Now, if you go to magicmonk.org, press enter. Okay, you will see that I have a website full of teaching resources. Okay, so then I'm going to go to math tutorials. And then within math tutorials, there are all these things that I've made over the years. Let's go to algebra. And you can see some algebra worksheets. Okay, so I'm going to go to, let's say, finding the equation of a straight line. Actually, let's do graphing linear equations. Let's get the worksheet up so I have a PDF file. Now, there are a couple of things I can do. I can actually just get a screenshot of this. So on Windows 10, I'm going to go Windows Shift S, and you can see it's letting me take a screen grab. I'm going to get the screen grab. I'm going to go to my OneNote, and I'm simply going to paste it in. So let's say I paste it in algebra lesson 4. Okay, I'm going to call this linear equations. Okay, I'm going to paste that in. Okay, so now once I have pasted a picture in, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use my stylus. I'm going to use my pen. And I'm just going to fill it in the table. Okay, so to do that, what you need to do is I'm going to go to the Draw tab and just make sure I select what sort of pen color I want to use. And then I'm going to start filling it in. So according to this, when x is 0, 2 times 0 plus 3 is 3. So I'm going to put 3 here. Okay, and then when x is 1, when x is 1, y equals 2 times 1 plus 3 equals 5. So I'm going to put 5 here. When x is 2, y equals 2 times 2 plus 3, which is 7. So I'm going to put 7 here. So you guys can see that I've pasted something, but by using a pen, I can write over the picture, which is really cool. So now I have x, this graph, we got x here, y here. When x is 0, 1, and 2, y is 3, 5, and 7. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So when x is 1, when x is 0, y is 3. When x is 1, y is 5. When x is 2, y is 7. Okay, and I'm going to draw a straight line through it. Draw a straight line through it. Sorry, I didn't. Oops. Didn't draw the dots very well. Yeah, it looks like they're on a straight line. Just going to make this dot a bit higher. Okay. So yeah, that's how you fill things in OneNote. Okay, so that's one way of attaching information by just getting the screenshot. Now, there are several other ways which I'll also show you. So this is a PDF file that I'm going to now download. Okay, I'm just going to download to my desktop to make it easier. Algebra Lesson 6 quiz. And I'm also going to download Algebra Lesson 7. Algebra Lesson 7. Let's get the worksheet. Download it to my desktop. Okay, so I have 2 files on my desktop. Okay, on my desktop I have 2 files. Algebra Lesson 6, Algebra Lesson 7. So I'm now going to try in my app. Okay, I'm going to have my app open as half of it. In my desktop, let's get out of the draw mode, go back to type. I can drag this to the right, give me a bit more room. Okay, actually, I'm just going to make another page called resources. Okay, I'm going to add a new page, call it resources. And I'm going to drag in this PDF file. Just drag it in. Page 6, Algebra Lesson 6 quiz, just drag it in. Now, when you drag something in, there are 2 options. You can either attach the file or you can insert a printout. I'll show you both, okay? If you attach the file, only the file is going to show, okay? And you can attach multiple files. I got Algebra 6, Algebra 7. All right, I can attach it like that, or let me delete that. When I drag it in, I can insert a printout. Okay, when you insert a printout, what's going to happen is you still have the file, plus you got the screenshot inserted automatically as a picture. So now it's very easy. If you have a pen, you can fill things in again using the draw function. Using the draw function, you can start filling things in. All right, 0 minus 1, 1 negative 3 minus 1 negative 4. You can fill things in again. All right, so that's really useful to do a printout if you want to attach the whole file and get the printout onto the page, that's also a very good option. Okay, now if you don't want the printout, okay, let's go back and get rid of the printouts. If you just want the files, rather than dragging it in randomly onto the page, and you can see it's not very neat, what I would like to do is to use a table. So I'm going to show you how to insert a table. You go insert, table, and just insert 2 or 3 cells or whatever. And then you're going to drag each one of these into a cell. All right, drag each one of these into a cell. It's just slightly more organized. Okay, I'm just going to drag multiple to show you a point. All right. It's more organized than dragging things randomly onto a page. Okay. So with this leads us on to tables. If you want to organize your information better in tables, rather than doing this insert table, what you can do is you can actually just put in here. So I'm going to type in Monday, press the tab key, and now you can see it automatically creates another cell. Tuesday, tab, Wednesday, tab. And then when you press enter on the last cell, it goes to the second line for you. So you can go, and then if you want to insert a tab, then it's probably easier to just right click, table, insert. You can insert below, insert to the left. Okay, so I have period 1, English, maths, science. Go to the last cell, press enter, period 2, PE. Okay, so you can see it's very easy to create tables inside OneNotes. Okay. So there's just some ways of organizing information. Either you want to paste some screenshots, use your pen, or you can put things in tables. It's totally up to you. Okay, so back to using just screen clippings. Let's go back to my PDF. Let's say I want to screen snip this question. Okay. So I'm going to scroll down a bit. Scroll down. You can scroll down by pressing enter. Scroll down a bit. Paste the information here. Okay, so let's say I draw some stuff. I'm going to draw some stuff. Okay. If you draw something incorrectly, okay, rather than using the eraser and rubbing it out, which is one way, okay, you can choose different size erasers as well if you want a larger eraser. Rather than using that, you can actually just press Control Z on your keyboard and that will get rid of it. So I use Control Z quite a bit. If you write something, you write it wrong, Control Z. Gets rid of the last stroke. Now, what you can also do is there is a button on your stylus. You should have a button for rubbing things out. So I'm writing things. I use the button on my stylus. That's a scroll button. Okay, there are actually 2 buttons on my stylus. Every stylus is different. The button on the bottom will scroll up and down. And the button on the top should rub things. It's not, oops. Okay, so I figured out the problem with my tablet. If you want to use a Wacom stylus, which if you don't know what I'm talking about, chances are you're not using it, but I'm using a Wacom Intuos stylus. And the settings are, if I go to Wacom tablets properties, and I need to go to the pen settings, and I need to choose the top button to tablet, erase, and then I also need to go to mapping and turn on Windows Ink, use Windows Ink. Once I've turned that on, then if I draw something and I'm not happy with it, I can just use the top button on my stylus, this button here, and I can erase, turn on the eraser tool. Okay, so that's how you use your stylus. You can highlight things, or use thicker pen. Use a thicker pen if you like. Okay, so that's some cool stuff. You can also just draw the axis for X and Y. Okay, or draw math axis like that instead of doing your own, instead of copying and pasting a picture. So these are just some functions you can do with the stylus. There are also some ink to text options. So if you want to write something and get OneNote to turn it into text for you, you can write something, hello, right, and then ink to text, hello. So it's turned that into text, right? It was picture before, but now it's turned into text. So let's go, hello, my name is Eddie. All right, and let's select that, into text, hello, my name is Eddie. So it can turn what you write into text, even into maths. If you have a math symbol, so something like y equals x plus 3 squared. All right, let's see if it'll do that into maths. Oh, it wants you to write the maths here. Y equals x squared minus 3. Insert. Right, it's inserted that. Oops. It's done something funny there. Y equals x squared minus 3. It's done the maths for you there. Into shape. No. Oh, it's done it. Into shape. So it works for straight line shapes, polygons. Works for polygons. Oh, yes, it does. It works for circles, into shape. Works for triangles. You can tell I don't use these three functions very often, but it does work. Click and drag down to make space for more notes. So let's say I want a bit more space down here in between these shapes. I can use this function, drag things down, and now you got a bit more space in there. So that's also very useful. Arrange, bring objects forward or send them back. So I'm going to explain the arrange part using this picture. So if I drag this to the top here and I go arrange, send to back, you can barely see it now. But if I go arrange, bring to front, you can see it over all these other shapes. Okay, so that's how you arrange things by bring it to the front over other shapes or send it to the back where it goes behind the shape. So the last thing I want to talk about with you guys before we finish off the video is class OneNotes. So if you are not a teacher in a school, you can probably tune out now because this probably applies more to teachers and students. So what is a class OneNote? A class OneNote is very similar to a normal OneNote, except it has been set up, optimized for classrooms. So there are three different things about a class OneNote that a normal OneNote doesn't have. Number one, collaboration space. Collaboration space is a space designed for teachers and students to collaborate together, and as a result, anything you put in the collaboration space can be edited by every single person, including students. Number two is the content library. And the content library is a space where only the teacher can edit. So in your class OneNote, if you want to add students as well as teachers to your class, then only teachers will be able to edit the content library. Students will not be able to edit the content library. The third part of class OneNotes is that each student will also have their own section that they can go in and edit, but they cannot see any other student section. So each student can only see their own section. They can't see other student sections, but as a teacher, you can see everybody's work. Every student sections will be visible to you. So let's have a look at an example. Here I've got a class called IPT 111A 2018. So 2018 is when this class OneNote was created. So if you're going to create a class OneNote, I strongly suggest you put the year into the name of the notebook. Otherwise, you might forget which year you taught it in. And as well as in future years, when you create a class OneNote for a different class, you want them to have different names. So the easy way to do that is to make sure each class OneNote is labeled with the year that it's created in. And as well as the class code or subject code or however you guys do it in your school. Obviously, we say IPT 111 representing year 11, semester 1 and class A. So that's the class code that we use at our school. And then we got the collaboration space. There are sections in the collaboration space everyone can edit. Content library, only teachers can edit. And then each student will have their own section. So I'm just going to scroll down, but obviously I'm not going to show you any names because it's confidential. But each of these section groups belong to a student each. Okay, so each student here can only view their own individual section. So let's talk about the collaboration space. So you can see that I'm sitting in here right now. Now, the problem with collaboration space is if you have a class of 30 or something students and every one of them is going in there, it's very hard to control what they type in there. If you've been a teacher yourself, you've probably experienced the same thing. Just students, it's very hard to control what they do on the computer. So what I would suggest you do is if you create a section in the collaboration space, right click on a section, go to password protect this section, and then go to change password. Okay, so because I have put a section password on it before, I have to click change password. I'm just going to remove the password I put on before, and so you'll see what it looks like. But if you haven't put a password on it, it'll say set password. So you click set password, and then I'm just going to put in a password group 1. Okay, so what this means is if you want to go into this section and edit something, you have to know the password. And then what I do in the class is I divide the class up into maybe 5 or 6 groups. Each group has their own password. So then you have more control when students talk to each other on the collaboration space. They won't have randoms coming in typing things. So that's a good idea to put a password on it. But basically, whoever has the password to this section can come in here. They can edit. My name is Eddie. They can put in whatever they want if they have the password to that section. So that's a collaboration space. Now let's talk about the content library. The content library is where the teacher puts in things that I was putting up before in the OneNote tutorial. So if you guys remember in the OneNote tutorial where I put in term 1, term 2, all this stuff will go to the content library. Okay, because this is where you're teaching it. And students can only view it, they can't edit it. Okay, so just put stuff in the content library for lesson resources and things like that. Now, an interesting thing is you might also benefit from moving things out of the content library and just placing it straight underneath your notebook in the root section. So it's not underneath the content library. This will still be viewable by everyone, but only teachers can edit the stuff that is outside in the root folder. Okay, now, so what's the difference between putting this outside and putting it in the content library? Okay, what is the difference? The difference is if you share this notebook with someone else, not through the class notebook functionality. So I'm going to talk about all this later, but if you share this notebook by just going right click, share this notebook, okay, and you type someone's email into this, here, then that person will not be able to see the content library. That person will not be able to see the content library, which is why it's better if you want to make sure anyone who can see this notebook can see this information, put it in the root folder. Okay, this way everyone can see it, but only teachers can edit, obviously. All right, now, then we got each student will have their own section. So you can see students have two sections. One is called class notes, one is called grades. Okay, so what you guys probably want to know right now is how do you create a class notebook? So I'm going to show you the new way now. You could use to create it inside this class notebook tab. Okay, if you go to the class notebook tab, you might see something saying create class notebook. It's just stopped working for a sec. Oh, it's working now. Class notebook, create class notebook. That is the old way now. Okay, so the new way since about 2020 or 2019 is through Microsoft Teams. So what's happened in the last few years is Teams has become really popular for interacting between teachers and students. So what Microsoft has decided to do is integrate class OneNotes with Teams so that you can simply automate the process for creating class notebooks. So I'm just going to show you what I mean by Teams. So if you have not used Teams before, the easiest way to get to it is teams.microsoft.com. And you can sign in with your school username. So once you log into Microsoft Teams, you'll see all of these functionalities on the left, activity, chat, Teams, all that. We're just going to discuss how it is used to integrate with class notebooks. So there's no point in trying to, so we're not going to go into other functionalities today. We're not going to talk to people, ring people up. We're not going to do any of that. We're just talking about how to create a class notebook through Teams. Now, if your school has signed a contract with Microsoft Education and Microsoft has set up the Sharepoint site for your school with education in mind, it's very possible that they have already created your class notebooks, your class teams for you. So you shouldn't have to create a class team yourself. But if you do have to create one, I'm just going to switch to my personal organization to show you how to do that. Okay, so this is now underneath my personal organization. So if you go to join or create a team, create team, now it's not going to show class notebooks here because I'm not set up as a school for my personal organization. But if you set up as a school, over here it'll say something like create a class team. And then you just go in there. I'm just going to click this one. What kind of team? It'll say class team. And then just give your class team a name and create. Okay, so this is for creating a class team, but keep in mind you shouldn't have to do this part because Microsoft or your school IT team or whoever should have already created your classes for you in Teams. So once you create a class team, Okay, what you can do is you can right click on the class team, manage team, and then go to members and guests. You should see a list of your students here. All right, if you have new students and you want to add someone, so I'm going to click on add member. You can type in just the name of the student and then click add, and that will add them. Okay, so I'm just going to add 2 students right now, and then click add, and then click close. So you'll see how many people you have in your students. Once you have a class team and you have some students, all right, I'm just going to show you back to the real classes that I'm teaching. Okay, once you have a class team and you added some students, there should be a button saying set up class notebook. Okay, so if you click that set up class notebook, you will see that it automatically creates a class notebook for you with all of your students in it. All right, and then you can simply click on this drop down here, open in desktop app, and then it'll open up the class notebook for you. So that's how you create one nowadays, and that's how you add new students in. So the last feature I'm going to show you before I turn it off is if you have a worksheet. Okay, so this is a worksheet that I want my students to fill in. All right. Now, if you have a worksheet you want your students to fill in, each person is going to type in there some information. What you would do is you would click distribute page. Underneath the class notebook tab, distribute page. Now, if you don't have the class notebook tab, try going into the OneNote for Windows 10 version. I'm going to do that right now. Right, this is the OneNote for Windows 10 version. There's a class notebook distribute page. Okay, so if you do not have class notebook tab, you can also download the class OneNote class notebook add-in. So you can simply click on that, and then you can install it, download it, and then you can simply install that. Okay, so that should get you the class OneNote notebook add-in. So there are two links, one for the Office version, one for the Windows version. I'm sure you guys can figure that out. So once you have the class notebook add-in, I'm just going to go back. Okay, then what you're going to do is you're going to click on a page you want to distribute to your students, click on distribute page, choose which section you want to put this worksheet in. So I'm going to distribute it to class notes. Please wait while your pages are being distributed. Now it's distributed. So now what you want to do is you want to see whether your students have done the work. And then that's when you go review student work. And because I've distributed previously to class notes, I'm going to click on that. And now you can see under algorithms pretest, which was the name of the page, underneath algorithms pretest, you got the names of all of your students here. And then you can just simply click on the student to see their work. So you can just click through it and mark it as you're clicking through it. See every single person's work. Now, the reason why you see the same names probably popping up multiple times is because I've distributed multiple times previously. All right, so that is that concludes the information on OneNote. Hopefully you guys have learned a little bit from watching these videos. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope this has helped you. See you next time.